We know that exchange of gases occurs primarily between alveoli, blood and tissues. It takes place on the basis of pressure and concentration gradients using simple diffusion. The concentration gradient for oxygen and carbon dioxide from alveoli to blood and blood to tissues differs with the difference of partial pressure at the sites of diffusion. Partial pressure is pressure contributed by an individual gas in a mixture of gases. It is represented as PO2 for oxygen and PCO2 for carbon dioxide. This diagram denotes partial pressure for oxygen and carbon dioxide in different parts of the body, with the concentration gradient for oxygen and carbon dioxide from alveoli to blood, blood to tissues, and vice versa. As carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times more soluble than oxygen, the amount of carbon dioxide that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane is much more than that of oxygen. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported to various organs of the body by blood. About 97% of oxygen is transported by red blood cells, whereas the remaining 3% is carried in a dissolved state through the plasma. Nearly 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported by red blood cells, while 70% of it is carried as bicarbonate, and the remaining 5 to 10% is carried in a dissolved state through plasma. Let's look at the transportation of oxygen from alveoli to tissues. Hemoglobin in the blood binds with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a red-colored, iron-containing protein. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. The binding of oxygen with hemoglobin is influenced by factors such as partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide, hydrogen ion concentration, and temperature. The percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen, if plotted against the partial pressure of oxygen, results in a sigmoid curve called the oxygen dissociation curve. This curve is used to study the effect of factors such as partial pressure of carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentration on the binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. Alveoli are more amenable to the formation of oxyhemoglobin as they have high oxygen partial pressure, low carbon dioxide partial pressure, a smaller hydrogen ion concentration, and lower temperature. On the other hand, tissues are amenable to the dissociation of oxygen from oxyhemoglobin as they have low oxygen partial pressure, high carbon dioxide partial pressure, high hydrogen ion concentration, and high temperature. Therefore, oxygen combines with hemoglobin on the surface of the lungs and gets dissociated in the tissues. Now let's understand how carbon dioxide is transported from tissues to alveoli. Carbon dioxide is carried by hemoglobin in blood as carbaminohemoglobin. The binding of carbon dioxide and hemoglobin is high in tissues where carbon dioxide partial pressure is high and oxygen partial pressure is low. On the other hand, when carbon dioxide partial pressure is low and oxygen partial pressure is high, as in alveoli, dissociation of carbon dioxide from carbaminohemoglobin takes place. The carbonic anhydrase enzyme present in red blood cells and plasma facilitates diffusion in tissues and alveoli. In tissues where the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high, it diffuses into red blood cells and plasma to form bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. In alveoli, where partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low, carbon dioxide and water are formed. Thus, carbon dioxide, trapped as bicarbonate in red blood cells, is transported to the alveoli and released as carbon dioxide. For every 100 milliliters of deoxygenated blood, hemoglobin releases approximately 4 milliliters of carbon dioxide to the alveoli. The respiratory rhythm is maintained by the human brain. This is regulated by 3 respiratory centers in the pons and medulla region of the brain, called the respiratory rhythm center. It includes the inspiratory center, the expiratory center, and the pneumotaxic center. Neural signals from these centers can reduce the duration of inspiration and thereby alter the respiratory rate. A chemosensitive area adjacent to the rhythm center is highly sensitive to carbon dioxide and hydrogen ions. Hence, the increase of these substances in the blood activates this center, which in turn signals the rhythm center to make adjustments in the respiratory process to eliminate these substances. Asthma and emphysema are disorders of the respiratory system caused by environmental factors. Asthma is characterized by difficulty in breathing due to inflammation of the bronchi and bronchioles. Emphysema is a chronic disorder caused by the rupture of the alveolar walls, which decreases the respiratory surface. In industries involving grinding or stone breaking, long-term exposure to dust gives rise to inflammation, resulting in fibrosis and lung damage.